Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you so much for listening and for watching New Life Live. I'm Brian Perez, and in the studio with me today, we've got Dr. Jill Hubbard and Dr. Jim Burns. Jill is a clinical psychologist. Jim is the founder of Homeward, and they are here to answer the questions that you might have for us today. But first, we are going to ask Jill, what's on your mind, Jill? How are you?
Hi, guys. Well, I'm a little worried.
Oh?
My topic is on worry and anxiety.
Okay. We'll help you.
So, yes. So just bear with me here. So I come from a long line of worry warts. And any of you ever try to worry yourself into health? Let me tell you, it doesn't really work. So I heard some things on worry recently, worry and anxiety, that I thought were kind of interesting. Now, worry and anxiety are similar, but they're not exactly the same. Now you can be worried and not anxious, but you can't be anxious and not worried. Okay. So it's kind of like a continuum where you start with simple concern, right? It's good to be concerned about things, to be aware. And then you might move into worrying about the future, worrying about what's going to happen. You might even start, kind of having these repeated worries over and over, obsessional, right? Eventually, it moves into anxiety. Now, some people are more prone to be anxious. Maybe you were raised by an anxious parent, and so it's a little more hardwired. So I'm kind of talking about the precursor to anxiety, and not a full-blown anxiety disorder. But where a lot of us kind of live is that we just worry about things, and we get fearful, right? So it moves along down this path to anxiety when worry goes unchecked. So we need to kind of check our worry. So first of all, some differences between worry and anxiety. Worry is in the mind. Anxiety is in the body. Worry is very specific. Anxiety is very vague. Anxiety causes paralysis, whereas worry should lead us to action, because that's our way to check our worry, is to move into action. And there was actually a study that found that 92%, here for you, statistics, 92% of what we worry about never happens.
92%?
92%.
Wow.
Okay, and then of the remaining 6% is not as bad as you thought. Okay, so then there is the 2% where maybe what you thought was going to happen, you got that cancer diagnosis. But in that 2%, God is with us in it and helps us to handle it, even though we fear that we can't handle it, right? So one of the things to do is to make a list of your worries. A way to work with them is to make a list of your worries and be very specific about them, because in order to move into action, you have to be specific. And then you run it through the test. We all know Philippians 4:6-10. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Those verses. And then in verse 8, it tells you what to fix your thoughts and your mind on, right? And so we run it through those things in verse 8. Very specifically, we ask about our worry. Is it true? Is it honorable? Is it right? Is it lovely? Is it admirable? Is it excellent? We run our thoughts through that. And it's really important to turn all those thoughts back towards God. And now we're running out of time. I have more things that I'm worried about to tell you.
Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit in the next segment. But this is New Life Live. It's funny because you mentioned the 92% of these things that never actually happened. And my reaction was, wow. And then I thought about it. You know what? You're right. Everything that I've ever worried about most of it didn't happen.
Right. But it's our form of control.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, we will be right back here on New Life Live. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Brian Perez here with Doctors Jill Hubbard and Jim Burns. And if you're watching us online, make sure to share the video with your friends so we can get more people engaged.
New Life Ministries saved my completely broken marriage.
No matter how much hurt you've had to face, no marriage is beyond hope. At New Life Ministries Intimacy and Marriage Weekend, licensed counselors will help you rebuild communication skills and renew your commitment to each other.
You're building authentic intimacy, and you're learning how to connect on an emotional and relational level. You're learning how to listen. You're learning how to identify those core patterns that get in the way of good relationship.
The Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is February 14th to the 16th in Orange County, California. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. 1-800-639-5433.
3.5 years later, we're still going strong. I would encourage anybody who's struggling in their marriage to go. They are more effective than anything else we tried.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Hi there, this is New Life Live. I'm Brian Perez here with Doctors Jill Hubbard and Jim Burns, and we're going to get to the phones in just a moment. First, let me let you know that there is a tip sheet that we are offering for free. You can get it by calling us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and it's called 10 Tips for Healing Broken Families. This could be a great resource for you, maybe someone you know who's going through something right now. 10 Tips for Healing Broken Families. We can send that out to you. Just give us a call and ask for it at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now we're going to go to the phones, beginning with Beatrice in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, listening on WFIL. Hello, Beatrice. Welcome to New Life Live.
Well, thank you. I just want to wish you both, or all of you, the team, a blessed 2025.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yes.
My issue is I'm an adult, and my issue is with my deceased mother. Some of the statements that she made throughout my life were very harsh and caused I guess major changes. One was my father was a night worker, so my mom was alone a lot, so I'm sure she had her frustrations. But she mentioned to me once or twice that, with 2 children, she could leave my father, but with 1 child, she could leave my father, but with 2, it was impossible. And, back then, divorce wasn't as popular as it is today. And another issue was that when I was about to get engaged, I had asked my fiancé to ask permission to marry me with my parents. And when we came to my with my mom, my house, my father wasn't available, so my mother declined. And that was very harsh. And anyhow, he kind of left my life, so I never got to marry him.
You didn't get to marry him because
Mom didn't approve.
Yeah, he was kind of insulted because he didn't want to do it in the first place, and that was that. So I was just wondering if forgiving your mother and fathers and the emotional work would help me get through this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think absolutely. Even if the scenarios aren't identical, the principles are what would help you to be able to see your parents separate from who you are, and to be able to see them in the context of, especially now that you're an adult, Beatrice, of their own issues, and then how you can actually surpass your parents by being a more honorable person than they were. And so I think it's always a journey that we need to go on to, because those things that are said, we hold on to them, and you remember them with a child's mind and through child eyes. And so it's good to re-examine and get some other input so that you can put it in its proper perspective now that you're an adult. And even though our parents have so much power in our lives, they're not right about everything. And we don't want to give them, as an adult now, that same power. We want to see them as human with their own foibles and disappointment. Your mom had a lot of disappointment, it sounds like, Beatrice, and none of it was your fault. You didn't cause it. She made choices. Your dad made choices. They didn't know how to work out their relationship together. And so you got the runoff of how your mom was feeling, it sounds like.
You know, I think there's so many times, Beatrice, where also what our parents say to us, those words are sometimes embedded in our brain.
Oh, yeah.
And it sometimes, if we're not careful, they become self-fulfilling prophecy where we then begin to act out what our parents said and they were wrong. So there is this conversation that I think we have to do with God and with our mind that says, that was not true. That is not right. I am a child of God. And you become, what I hope for you and my prayer for you is that you become what we call the transitional generation. You know, the Bible says you inherit the sins of a previous generation to the third and fourth generation. But I think it's very possible to break that chain of dysfunction. And you either recover or you repeat. And so what you want to do now is put your energy into recovering and not repeating. I don't hear you saying that you're doing that, but that'll give you some freedom. And if we don't, as time goes on, and Jill's much better at this than me, but as we think about forgiving our fathers and our mothers. But if we don't forgive, it's like us drinking rat poison, waiting for them to die or whatever it is. Now, they've passed on. So, you know, how do you want to work through the process of, you know, the in some ways, the lies or misconceptions. Now, they maybe didn't do that because they're horrible people. Maybe they did it because of their own backgrounds and their own pain and their own dysfunction. But what I want you to do is you can know that you can break the chain of dysfunction and you can be that transitional generation. But to do that, it means you got to do the work to recover. And recovering isn't easy because before some freedom comes pain. And so you may have to go into that pain. But the process is what you shared with us was not right, what she did. And so in that sense, I didn't hear you saying that on the you know, the engaged part. So, because sometimes parents do know best, but it didn't sound like this one was handled well. So, you know, you got to work through that, and then you build upon those, and you become more and greater, you know, in your life than they ever did because you're working through it. Plus, you have God's help, and I'm not sure that they were, you know, leaning into the Lord like you can.
So, friend Beatrice, you need other voices.
Yeah.
So I think the book would be a big help. I think also getting into therapy to work through some of these, because later in life is when our childhood stuff resurfaces again, where we kind of circle back around and we really reflect, but we're in a calmer, usually more stable place to actually dive in and deal with it.
Yeah. Even years later.
I took care of them both for 14 years before they passed. So I wasn't, it was, excuse me, it was before, you know, you could get funds for taking care of your parents. So my income, you know, is not what it should be at this juncture. So that's also painful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you'll stay on the phone, Beatrice, we want to send you a copy of this book. It's called Forgiving Our Fathers and Mothers, written by Jill Hubbard.
Co-authored.
Co-authored.
Yes.
Nice. What led you to write this book?
I was asked to be the co-author.
Oh, okay. I thought...
Well, she has amazing wisdom. I read it.
I feel like God picks our projects, right?
Yeah, for sure. Very true. Okay, Beatrice, we will send that out to you. And right now we're going to go to Mulu, who is listening in Washington, D.C. on WAVA. Hello, Mulu. Welcome to New Life Live.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling in.
So, my question is, I have a 24-year-old son. He is becoming disrespectful, rude when we talk. And to give you the background, me and his mother have been divorced. Before we divorced, when we were together, he has witnessed us arguing. I think that was disturbing him. He sometimes makes that. I have apologized about that because I have repeatedly apologized. You shouldn't have been exposed to that. I am guilty about that, and I have advised him to get psychotherapy. He did. I think he said he did. I think he has got that. But still, he gets argumentative, gets loud at me, shouts. So how can I stop that and continue our relationship? I want to continue to have a relationship with him.
How often do you
Otherwise,
see each other, Mulu?
How frequently we see each other?
Yes.
When he has vacation, he's in the university, in school. When he is on vacation, when he comes, that's the only time I see him, and not on every vacation. Sometimes I may not see him. I have missed his graduation when he got his first degree because of this argument. Now he is in a medical school. He's very smart, but when we meet, he gets really loud. The last time I saw him was less than a week ago.
So
when he came forward.
Mulu, I have two thoughts here. First is, have you asked your son? I mean, I hear that you said you've apologized. Sometimes apologizing doesn't cover it all. Have you asked him if he still is angry with you and has resentments towards you? And if so, you would be willing to hear them, because it seems as though they're leaking out and he's not feeling resolved or moving on from them. And so what else does he need from you? So that's one path, and maybe you've done some of that. But if the issues keep coming up, then there's more there for him to work through with you, possibly. The other line of thought is that he just, because of the environment, and he's a smart guy, and he has learned to be argumentative. And so I might say to him, when you're yelling at me, it's hard for me to hear you. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to run to the restroom, or I'm going to take a break. So hold that thought, and when I come back, let's see if we can talk about it, from a calmer place, and just interrupt, because the process of your talking becomes less about the content at that moment and more about how you guys are communicating with each other. So you want to interrupt that and say, I really want to hear you, but I'm getting distracted by the loudness that I'm receiving from you. How does that sound, Mulu?
Yeah, I will try that. What I did so far is, I will try what you advised me. What I tried so far is, I asked him to apologize for getting loud at me, getting rude. He kind of doesn't want to apologize. And the time when he shouted last time, we were on the phone. He was shouting over the phone. So I hung it up.
Okay. So, Mulu, you can't force someone to apologize. But like I was saying to you, you can let them know how their behavior is impacting you. And then instead of being reactive and just hanging up, and I know that's a strong temptation, so it takes a little impulse control, is to say, I'm going to hang up right now and call you back because I'm feeling a little heated and I don't want to say something I regret.
So good. There's a word that I'm thinking, and the word is de-escalate. And so when somebody, communication, Mulu, is a learned trait. And I'm still learning how to communicate with my kids and with my wife and life, and we all are. And so what Jill just said to you is, man, that's what I call a mic drop, because that's really the way to communicate with him. And in some ways, it's de-escalating the situation. Now, sometimes we escalate it when what we want our heart says, I'm hanging up right now. But instead of saying that, saying, the way you're talking to me, I'm going to have to take a break. I want to continue the conversation later, and I surely don't want to hang up on you, and I love you so much, but I don't feel we're in a good place to have this conversation right now. Would it be better for us to kind of not be arguing, or would it be better for us to hang up and then we have an appointment to talk again? What you're doing is you're not trying to just walk away from the problem. And the other thing I would think of, and it could be and it could not be, yeah, he saw you arguing. A lot of times parents view the divorce in eyes that the kids don't. And so it may not be as big a deal to him. I mean, it could be. But the point of the matter is that you don't want to just take the blame for all of that. I love that you apologized. But at the same time, communication's a learned trait. Learn some of that communication skills. And I think you can learn that sometimes with a counselor, sometimes with a friend, sometimes with a pastor. But, teach somebody who you respect, who communicates well, say, help me learn to communicate. How would you handle this situation?
Well, and it's hard when the emotions are high. So you have to be more invested in the relationship than what is being talked about.
Yeah.
So that's really important before you talk, to care about that.
Right.
This is New Life Live. I'm your host, Brian Perez, here with Dr. Jill Hubbard and Dr. Jim Burns. He's the founder of Homeward. Jill is a clinical psychologist, and we will be back with more of your questions in just a bit on New Life Live.
Here at New Life, we want you to have transformation. And so we have created the New Life courses, and we are going to launch them in January. And you meet weekly on Zoom with a coach or counselor. You're going to have teaching as well as that group connection, because we know how powerful that is. We hear that all the time about our intensives, that they love the information, but the group process is so powerful. And many of you have been hesitant to participate because you're not sure, the timing, the price. New Life courses are going to meet you right at that area of need. We are going to provide a grief recovery course, and that's 12 weeks, and also Lose It for Life. Every week you're meeting on Zoom with that therapist. You're going over the concepts as well as connecting as a group. It is so powerful, and it's accessible. Wherever you are, you're going to be able to join us.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Hello, welcome back to New Life Live. I'm Brian Perez here with Dr. Jill Hubbard and Dr. Jim Burns. And right before the break, we were talking to Mulu. And if you're still on the phone, you are. Good. Okay, so we're going to send you a copy of Jim Burns' book, Doing Life with Your Adult Children. What do you think Mulu will learn from that book? Well, I know the title says it all, but...
one of it is rules without relationship equal rebellion. And it's not that he's saying a lot of rules, but sometimes we want to get it right and we want to get it over. But sometimes what we have to do is put energy and time into the relationship. Mm-hmm. And when we build that relationship, it actually means we may not have to talk about some of those tougher things, but just build a relationship, an understanding relationship. And then, it's a little easier once you've had coffee together, or once you've gone to a ball game, or, you've just put energy into the relationship. And it sounds almost the opposite, because a lot of and we'll say this a lot of times, no, get in the relationship, let's go through it, have some tension here and get it moving. Sometimes we don't need that. Sometimes what we need to do is put trustful relationships in so that relationships becomes more trustful. I think that's a very key part to communicating with your adult children, because really you're giving them the passport to adulthood. Now they're adults, and Mulu said that very well, and my goodness, his son sounds very capable. Now he has to become capable in how they communicate, and they communicate differently when they're an adult than when they're a child.
Right, and you have to allow the other person to be right sometimes.
Yeah.
and kind of set that aside, especially as a parent. You may think that you're right and you're making your point, and that sometimes ruins relationships if you have to make your point.
No, it's not worth trying to make the point sometimes.
Right. And we talked about maybe Mulu needs to go meet his son for coffee. So, Brian, in a public place where they wouldn't escalate as much. But prior to the phone call or the interaction, I think Mulu's task is to think about, okay, how can I hear my son? How can I not escalate with him? Right? How can I validate him?
Oh, no, exactly.
And set my own thoughts and feelings aside.
Part of it goes back to what we talk about a lot here is boundaries. So we have to learn to communicate healthy with boundaries. And sometimes that boundary is what we were talking about with Mulu. I feel like I want to hang up, but I don't want to. But if we can't slow it down, why don't we do it another time? That's a boundary. Boundaries are hard.
That's a boundary for Mulu.
Yeah, and then we have to be careful as adult. For me, maybe I'm speaking to myself, but I think Mulu too. We have to be careful not to tell our kids to apologize sometimes. They're adults. They've got to figure that out. But as a parent, I told my 11-year-old, you need to apologize to your mother right now. Right.
Well, right.
But you don't do that with adults as much as you want to. I don't do that with other people I'm working with or whatever as much as I'd like to. I mean, every so often, if I have a good relationship, I may have to say, have you thought about apologizing to them on that? But when you're in the heat of the battle, that doesn't oftentimes work, like forcing an apology.
Because you're basically telling the person they're wrong and they owe you something.
Yeah. And
instead of saying, my feelings are getting hurt. Or I'm feeling like kind of crushed by what you're saying.
And the truth is, Jill, they may be wrong and they maybe should apologize.
Yes.
But it's back to that learning how to communicate in a healthier way.
That doesn't de-escalate like you were talking about.
Right.
I'm glad you're talking about this because I needed to hear this today. No, I don't do it as much anymore. If there's an argument on the phone, I don't hang up as much as I used to. But the only reason I don't hang up is because I don't want to throw my cell phone on the ground and watch it go in a million pieces. Right?
True.
Because there's not as much power in just looking at the phone, pushing the button. And it's just not as... But no, in years past, I have been the person that just tries to avoid the conflict and everything else. But I love what you guys said. And let me see if I got this right for next time. Not that there's going to be a next time. But if it happens again where, hey, you know what? We're getting heated. I love you. I don't want to say something that I'm going to regret later because, oh my goodness, I have done that. Oh, we don't have time to talk about that right now. But there's been times when it just gets out of hand. And then when you get to the house, when you can talk face to face, nobody wants to talk to each other because... But
let me just say, all of those words that we are suggesting, it is hard when someone is yelling at you to have them even hear the words. So you do the best you can. And sometimes you have to say less, but say, I need a timeout. I'll call you later. Right. And I think, too, there's a distinction. If a person is abusive, if they are intoxicated, then sometimes you just have to say, again, I need a timeout. I'm hanging up. And you just hang up.
And it's even easier when you warn them, hey, look, right now, because of this situation, I'm going to hang up. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but I am
And you may have
up.
to talk over them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is one of these 5 steps forward, 4 steps backward too, because nobody gets this thing perfect. And yet there are ways. Brian was saying, talking about his life. I mean, I take notes on you, Jill. When I don't go, well, that's good. I'm going to apply that to my life.
I think we all do that with each other.
Yeah, but the interesting side to it is that it's a process, and our Christian life is a process. It's called sanctification. We are in process until we die. And so we got to be careful to be easier on ourselves too, because we're not going to get it right every time.
Thank you so much for listening to New Life Live and for watching us as well. My name is Brian Perez, here with Dr. Jill Hubbard and Dr. Jim Burns. I am going to be in Dr. Burns's next sermon that he gives, his next sermon illustration. I think he's just going to say, I know this guy who does this. But anyway, if you hear that sermon, you will know who he's talking about.
Yes.
We'll be back with more of your questions here on New Life Live. And remember, if you can't call us when we are doing live programs, you can send in your questions online. at newlife.com/radio. That gives you all the different options how you can send in your questions. In fact, I think we're going to get to one of those when we come back here on the program.
New Life Ministries saved my completely broken marriage.
No matter how much hurt you've had to face, no marriage is beyond hope. At New Life Ministries Intimacy and Marriage Weekend, licensed counselors will help you rebuild communication skills and renew your commitment to each other.
You're building authentic intimacy, and you're learning how to connect on an emotional and relational level. You're learning how to listen. You're learning how to identify those core patterns that get in the way of good relationship.
The Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is February 14th to the 16th in Orange County, California. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. 1-800-639-5433.
3.5 years later, we're still going strong. I would encourage anybody who's struggling in their marriage to go. They are more effective than anything else we tried.
Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
You know, I'm so thankful because you know why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And you know one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch listening to all this great information and not paying. So my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Hi, I'm Brian Perez. Doctors Jill Hubbard and Jim Burns are joining me in the studio to answer the questions you might have, whatever you're going through, mental health struggles, life issues in general. Give us a call. We would love to chat with you. Really quick, I got to remind you guys about the Intimacy in Marriage Intensive that is happening next month, February 14th in Orange County, California. Besides your relationship with God, this is your most important relationship, the one with your spouse. You will never regret setting aside one weekend to make the rest of your married life the best it can be. Plus, it's happening on Valentine's Day weekend.
I know,
so,
and
come
like
on,
husbands, like score points.
Yes,
major points. I was thinking the word points.
Women would love this.
Yes, yeah. So guys, sign up for this at newlife.com. And if you're thinking, my marriage is pretty good. I think we're pretty intimate and we have a great relationship. There's a quiz you can take at newlife.com. You can look for it there on the Intimacy in Marriage page.
And Brian, we have the whole range of people, from people that are one step away from divorce to people that just want to keep growing and just want a little tune-up.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't have to be on the steps of disaster to go.
Very true. Yeah. So you can get more details at newlife.com. Okay, so we're going to go back to Mulu because we were talking to him. We told him what we thought, and then we kept on talking to him or talking about the issue with what do you call it? Disengagement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. De-escalation. That's it. That sounds better. But Mulu, has any of this helped you that you've heard from Doctors Jill Hubbard and Jim Burns?
Yes, I'm going to implement that and see the outcome. But what I wanted to tell you is my understanding of boundary is when someone does something wrong, there should be a consequence. So they think before doing. So
can I just interject, Mulu, before you make your next point? Because I think there's a misconception about boundaries, and it's like, especially with adults, that we can put a boundary on another person, and the boundary is for you. You can say, this works for me, this doesn't. I can tolerate this, I can't tolerate that. So it's for you. It's not as a punishment to someone else.
Okay. I might have used the wrong word, but what I did is, in the form of boundary, because of his behavior, I missed his last graduation.
Okay.
Was I right doing that? He told me that he was hurt because I was absent at his graduation. And is that wrong? I shouldn't do it again. And one more thing.
Okay.
The last time we met was in a restaurant, and
Good.
he was got loud. I didn't say anything. We finished. We came home, and then when we exchanged text, that's when I said the way you talked there was not good. I didn't want to make drama in front of people, but I was unhappy about what you did and demanded him to apologize. Now you are telling me I shouldn't ask apology, right?
Well, so I see how the chronology of it happened. Mulu, I think it is really hurtful that you didn't go to his graduation. And I think you keep trying to demand respect from him. And that doesn't always, that hasn't worked for you. And I'm sorry that your son is disrespectful. And sometimes kids that are very bright, and the stuff we talked about before from his childhood, what he witnessed, they can be rude and disrespectful. Now, the graduation, I think if I were to reframe it in boundaries for you, is that you couldn't tolerate the way your son was being with you. So you didn't want to be around him. Now, but that may have been too big of a step to take. As a parent, it's not an equal relationship, even with our adult children. You never stop being a parent. And even though your son sounds like he will have more than one graduation here, that's a major milestone event that you have robbed yourself of, and him, of you being there and being proud of his accomplishment. And every son needs a dad who is proud of him, who will admire what he has done, because deep down there's that little boy that wants to please his dad. And I think, Mulu, you get triggered by your son and in this whole area of disrespect. And maybe there's some things in you that have happened that your son then kind of steps on. And so he's bringing up some old hurt that I think you need to explore for yourself so that you aren't retaliating, punishing him because he wasn't respectful to you. I mean, that's an issue and it needs to be addressed. But, that's along the lines of not going to someone's wedding. And those are things that you can't undo.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we get confused between consequences and punishment. Yeah. I do. I think about this. One of the things that I talk about in marriage conferences is that I tend to withdraw. And that's, I don't realize it, but I'm punishing Kathy because I'm withdrawing because I'm mad at her for something instead of being willing to, work through it. Well, sometimes a punishment to me would be not going to the graduation. A consequence might even, you guys had a fight and he was rude to you, but you still showed love by going to the graduation. The consequences, maybe he feels bad because he saw your presence there with kind of an unconditional love. God loves us unconditionally, not for what we do, but for who we are. And we love our children that way too. And it's hard, believe me. But I want you to be thinking of phrases like, I'm going to lead with love. I'm going to practice kindness rather than punishment. Now, again, there are consequences and boundaries, as Jill was talking about, boundaries truly are important, but they're not necessarily punishment type boundaries. And sometimes she used the word explore for you. And I would suggest to you, because you sound like a person who really wants to learn and grow, and I just appreciate that quality in you. So your exploration says, here's maybe how I was raised. And again, we even have to look at our ethnic backgrounds in this, all of us do. Or here's how my dad treated me. So I'm going to, we carry it on sometimes. You may have to explore what's healthy and what's not healthy in terms of the way you, parent your adult son. now, and it is differently because, well, you're not really parenting. You're doing life, because parenting means that you're relinquishing your will. You're relinquishing the adulthood, now that child to do it, not you. I didn't say that right, but what I'm trying to say is, you got to relinquish him. Mm-hmm. He's an adult now.
You're not parenting
You're
him
not parenting
any longer.
Yeah, anymore. And that's hard for him because you've always been his dad, and you are still his dad, but in a different way. So, you did 2 decades of putting energy into him in one way. Now you have to change that. And but punishment and consequences are 2 different things. That's why we're both jumping on you a little bit for the graduation.
Mulu, I think it would be very powerful if you did some reflecting and you went to your son and you actually apologized for missing his graduation, and that you realized that was really hurtful and maybe too strong of an action, and that you realize you have a hard time when you feel disrespected by him, and that you're looking into that, why you get so triggered by that.
Yeah. The bottom line might be, in the midst of some of the tension, the question he's asking, but he's not saying it, but the question he's asking is, Dad, do you still love me?
Yeah.
And are you proud of me? This is a guy who's going to medical school. He may be doing some of that because he wants to make you proud of him. And you don't see it that way. But know that it's not verbal, but it's definitely in his head. Do you still love me? Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that I'm, being a kind of a punk to you. If I can say the word punk on radio. Can I say the word punk, Brian?
I would rather have a kid or an adult kid that's argumentative than one that cuts you out and doesn't talk to you.
Yeah, we're not talking
all.
about estrangement here.
Yeah, he keeps coming back. So that's a form of interaction and connection.
Yeah.
So what you're suggesting is just out of the blue, maybe a text or a phone call. Yeah. Son, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping we can patch things up. And I mean, that could mean the world to him.
Mm-hmm.
No,
but maybe in a face-to-face to apologize, if Mulu could do that. And I even tell people, write a script and memorize it, or have it there and just read it to the person.
Yeah.
Or if you're going through the trouble of writing a script, make it a letter, put it in the mail.
Sure.
He has the handwritten note in front of him, and that could help too.
Yeah, and don't use the word but. But
yes,
I'm still, whatever.
Right.
That's the word but is not allowed.
And you can use but not but.
Yeah.
Because that invalidates you, right?
Yeah. That just makes it seem like I did it because of this. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Mulu, thank you so much for calling in today, and we are going to get you a copy of Dr. Jim Burns' book that we mentioned before, Doing Life with Your Adult Children. That book is also available for purchase on the New Life store. Go to newlife.com, and if you are a Club New Life member, you get free shipping. So go to newlife.com and get that book by Dr. Jim Burns. More of your questions coming right up on New Life Live.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Hey, we're back on New Life Live. I'm Brian Perez, Dr. Jill Hubbard, and Dr. Jim Burns joining me on the program today. And we're going to talk to Linda in Reno, Nevada in just a moment. First, you can tell from the phone calls to this program that Christians are not exempt from the hard things of this world. I used to think that. I don't know why. And then I noticed that my life had trouble. And then when you hear okay, I'm not alone. So you're not alone. We are here to help you at New Life. And when you make contributions to us, when your financial gifts allow us to connect hurting people to the help that they need. So you can help by calling us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and making a gift, or at newlife.com, or text NLM, as in New Life Ministries, NLM, to 28950. Back to the phones. Here is Linda. How are you, Linda? Thanks for listening on the New Life app.
Thank you. I'm doing well.
How can we help you today?
Well, I have a younger brother, and he moved where. Well, I need to go back. We had a bipolar dad, and so grew up with that whole scenario of being codependent anyhow. But and now he also has bipolar, so everywhere he goes, he seems to have issues, and I've always been there for him. And this time we moved, and we really wanted him to move with us because he had nowhere to go, and not necessarily. He has a very good job and everything, but he just gets real depressed if he's by himself and stuff. So we talked him into coming up here, and it's been a nightmare because it's just been. Well, you told me to come up here. Now I'm miserable. What do I do? And I spend $10,000 or whatever to move here, and you did it, and it's tough, and I just don't know what to tell him anymore. I mean, I'm just so tired of trying to get him out of his depression or his and I did it with my dad too. So it's just I keep going back into the role of just trying to make everything okay.
Yeah, the caretaker of the family.
Oh, yes. And my sister's the same way. She's up here too. So it's just been really tough.
I'm sorry to hear that, Linda. And so so it sounds like your youngest brother, you said, is following in the footsteps of your dad and has a bit of that learned helplessness where he blames others for his situation.
Never put it that way before, but yes.
And it's hard for you and your sister to know how to help or how much to help. And the fact that you keep trying to talk him out of his depression, I think sometimes we have to ask people, are you just needing to vent right now, or are you expecting anything from me? Because we try to talk them out of it because that's just a natural human response when someone seems so down to go to the opposite and say, well, it's really not that bad. And what you do in that situation is you cause them to go even farther in convincing you how bad it is. So, I mean, relationships are like a teeter-totter. And so if you actually do the opposite, when he's really depressed, if you move towards him and you say, wow, yeah, you are really depressed. Yeah, things are really bad. He may then move towards you and say, well, it's not quite that bad. And so, because he doesn't, if you keep him from having to convince you that it's that bad, just agree with him and see what he does with that. Instead of talking him out of it is never ending because he feels like you don't understand. So people who are depressed want understanding and they want to be seen in how bad they feel. So see him. Yeah, it is bad. You don't have to have the answer for him. Yeah, I can see how you feel really bad. I can see how it's really hard for you to not have any friends. We wanted you to be near us, but you are having to make new friends, and that is hard. And just give him empathy and don't fix it. And even you might say, so what are you going to do about that?
But I'm a fixer.
Yeah. Well, Linda, you need to stop it.
Stop it right now.
Because you're exhausting yourself.
Yeah.
And you're mad at him for your behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Linda, I want you to ask yourself a question when this happens. Am I responsible for his happiness? Because it's a great question. You're not responsible for his happiness. You're not responsible. You're not to blame because he has a disorder. You're not to blame because that's how your dad was. It doesn't. You can do that with great empathy. But what I hear Jill saying is show empathy. And sometimes just listening is the language of love. So you show empathy and lead with empathy. But this is going to be a spiritual discipline for you, but don't try to fix him. And I'll just tell you, when you have somebody who has bipolar, I mean, there's medication that's great for them and they need some counseling and on and on. You can't fix them. You're not God, last time I checked. And so so you can't fix him, but there's some things in your own life that you can work through. So, work through, the issues that you've brought up to us. Those are the issues to work on. And there's with counseling, there's some great help for those of us who would call ourselves, codependents and enablers. And, and you can have some victory in your own life, but you're not going to fix him. That's not going to work. And you're not responsible for his own happiness, but you got to ask yourself that all the time.
So maybe you and your sister go to a CODA group.
Yeah.
A 12-step group for codependents.
Yeah. You could learn a lot by that. That's what's great about you calling us is that sure in 5 minutes we can give you some thoughts, but in a relationship with someone who works with this every day, like Jill was talking about the group, my goodness, you're going to hear phrases and lines, and you're going to go, oh my goodness, that's me, or you're going to hear that's what we need to do, and it can give you some hope. Not only for your long term, not just for yourself, but actually for your brother as well.
Well, you may, as you start to implement these ideas for yourself and you stop fixing, he may actually get better.
Yeah.
He may start to do more things for himself, especially if you're giving him some empathy and he feels heard. Then that's empowering for him to then move forward. And I know it's counterintuitive. I know it is, and it's so easy to fall back. And so you guys have this dance. So when you're in that old familiar dance, you've got to remember to switch it up, change the dance steps, because this isn't working for you.
And I know it's me. I mean, I know I have that problem because I had a friend for like 10 years who was an alcoholic, and because of my dad, it's like I'm made towards these people. It's kind of like
exactly. So, and the Reno area, I know people there. They have lots of 12-step meetings. So there's a good community there. So find a CODA group.
Yeah, and you can do that at newlife.com. We ended the program the same way we started almost, because we were talking about worry and anxiety.
Yes.
And here's Linda calling in saying, I'm a fixer, but we cannot fix the world.
Right. It's to ease our own anxiety because things seem out of place and not right.
Yeah.
Instead of letting God work with each person.
Very true. Well, we are out of time on today's episode of New Life Live. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. We archive all of our programs so you can listen to them later on podcast. We're on social media, so you can find out more about us that way, keep in touch with everything we do, and sign up for the New Life devotionals as well. And don't forget, the New Life courses on grief and Lose It for Life begin on Monday, and the Intimacy in Marriage Intensive is happening February 14th in Orange County. We would love to see you there. For Jill Hubbard and Jim Burns, I'm Brian Perez. God bless you from New Life Live.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video? And please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.